family insisted that I stay in school or I would never meet and marry anyone successful. So I thought, I'll go to cooking school. How hard could that be? I mean, there can't be any homework because you've got to do it there, right? Wrong. That's completely wrong. So after I finished cooking school, I had this cute little boyfriend that was going to go to a French Inn in the mountains in North Carolina and work called Glendale Springs. And I made arrangements to go with him. It was owned by a retired Broadway producer. It was pretty exciting. Anytime I met her, you just felt like you were the most important person in the room. So made our arrangements, packed up my little car, we drove up to the mountains. I think maybe I had $200 to my name and a college degree, which made my family very happy. So when we got there, it was $200 a week was the opening pay, and the owner said, how about instead of paying you the $200, arrange for you to have a place to live? Well, that's okay, that's great. So I moved into this cute little apartment behind the inn, started work, everything was fabulous. We had a farmer that grew all our vegetables, we had a baker that baked everything for us. We had a fisherman that went out every day and caught the fish that we were going to serve at the restaurant that day. So it was just a magical place. So at the end of the second week, I noticed it was payday. Everyone grabbed their checks and ran for the door. And I couldn't quite figure out what was happening until I got to the bank. And then I realized that only the first 3 people that made it got to cash their check. There was no money after that. So I came back to the inn and thought, well, I guess this is how this will work. And I went back to my little apartment, and it turns out that people that owned the apartment didn't know that I was staying in it, and they had come home. So not only did I not have a paycheck, but now I did not have a place to live in the mountains of North Carolina, and it was a crossroad. There was nowhere else to live, unless you lived in, maybe the church on the back porch. So the owner said, well, why don't I give you a place to stay in the inn? I was like, well, that'll be great. It's a really nice inn. But what she meant was an attic. So as you imagine, it was the attic of a 150 to 200-year-old building, and she had them lay down plywood and put a bed there. So in the daytime, it was 110 in the attic, and at night, it was about -10. So in the daytime, you just didn't go up, and in the nighttime, I'd wrap up in a sleeping bag and think, I'm learning, this is going to be worth it in the end. And it was a lot of fun. We had a really great chef. His name was Ted Herman, and he's since retired from cooking, but he taught a lot of great people through a French restaurant called Le Chaudière in Winston-Salem, and then he went to Glendale Springs. So what he would do that taught me so much is every day he took the prime of any ingredient that we had, and then he gave me what was left. If it was a New York strip, I got the trimmings. If it was chicken, I got the wings and the legs. If it was squash, I got the inside, he got the outside. And I had to make a lunch special from those pieces and parts. And it had to be delicious and well thought out and really a respect for the ingredients. It wasn't trash to him. And so that has served me more in any job that I've ever done. And at our restaurant, Grits and Groceries, you tell we don't take the trash out. I mean, we use every piece of it. We work really hard to grow everything, have everything, work with our farmers. So then the other great surprise there was on the lady that owned us, Gail, she would book tour buses, but she wouldn't tell anyone. So I would see my boyfriend, who was the maitre d', run into the back, and he would say, there's a bus here. So instead of 20 people, now we're going to serve 120 people. So crisis management. So I would run out and snatch all the menus off of the table and throw them away, and I would give each server 2 dishes that they had to offer their tables so that we didn't have to be out of anything and look like we weren't prepared or that we didn't know a bus was coming. And about halfway through the meal, Gail would come out, and her normal Broadway production way, she would, showtime girls, showtime. She'd walk through the dining room, and everyone felt like they were the most important person there. And I said, that's the person I want to be. Food is good, food is great, but I want to be the person that makes everyone feel like they're the most important person in my restaurant. So we've always worked really hard to achieve that, until you get on the bad list at Grits and Groceries. So if you ever come to Grits and Groceries and we won't let you sit inside, you're on the bad list. We have a table outside for those people, but I don't see anybody in here on the bad list. So at the end of the summer, it was time for my internship to be over. I learned all kinds of great things. I always tell everybody that's where I learned 90% about food, love, and working with crazy people. So at the end of the season, I was trying to figure out where I was going to go, and my boyfriend and I had always just said we were a one-season couple. At the end of the season, he was going his way, I was going my way. And instead, he got mad at the fact that we never got paid. And he packed his stuff in my car and said that we were moving to Savannah. So, you know, at 21 years old, I wasn't quite sure what to do with that information. So I got in the car and left. But I've always just really treasured the time that I spent at Glendale Springs in North Carolina. So that's my story.